Not every shock kills you instantly. Some pain just silently eats away at you day by day until you no longer recognize yourself. Story. Alone in a small apartment in Austin. When the final notification on her phone went silent, Natalie was still sitting on the living room floor. The night in Austin wasn't too cold this time of year, but her apartment felt frozen. She rested her head on the edge of the sofa, her eyes completely dry. Not because she didn't want to cry, but because she had cried so much there were no more tears left to shed. When the final notification on her phone went silent, Natalie was still sitting on the living room floor. The night in Austin wasn't too cold this time of year, but her apartment felt frozen. She rested her head on the edge of the sofa, her eyes completely dry. Not because she didn't want to cry, but because she had cried so much there were no more tears left to shed. They broke up this afternoon. There wasn't a big fight. No shouting, no accusations, no dramatic exit. Just a 10-minute conversation, dry, calm, and almost cruel in its composure. He said, "I think I need a different path." She simply nodded. No pleading, no asking why. She had known this would happen someday, but she never imagined it would come so quietly. Natalie is 29, a freelance designer, living alone. She had just moved to Texas after 7 years in New York to start over. She used to think, we made it through the pandemic. We survived lockdown together. We shared the roughest parts of each other's lives. What could possibly tear us apart now? But in the end, it wasn't another person. It wasn't distance. It was exhaustion. She opened Spotify, but didn't have the strength to choose a song. She picked up her notebook, the one where she usually sketched logos for clients, and wrote, "I don't know who I am if I'm not his girlfriend." She stared at the sentence for a long time, then added, "I don't know if I can make it through this." In that moment, Natalie didn't need someone to say, "It's going to be okay." What she needed was a place to put down her pain, even if just for a few minutes. Somewhere she didn't have to be strong. A small, still space in a world that kept spinning, where she could fall apart gently. And if you've ever been in a room like that, in the middle of the night, with a heart that suddenly lost its way, then maybe you understand. Not all pain arrives like a storm. Some pain comes like silence. And because it's so quiet, you don't know how to fight it. After a breakup, start with your thoughts. After a breakup, your mind often falls into chaos. What once felt familiar suddenly feels foreign. No more calls at the usual time. No more footsteps in the kitchen each morning. And in the middle of all that new emptiness, the first thing to rush in isn't silence. It's thoughts. Negative thoughts, coming one after another, as if they've been waiting for this moment. I'm not good enough. I'm always the one left behind. Maybe I don't deserve a kind love. These aren't carefully considered statements. They don't come from logic. They come from hurt. And if you let them loop unchecked long enough, they start to feel like truth. Not because they are true, but because you've forgotten that you have the right to question them. That's where CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, comes in as a tool to pull you out of that unconscious spiral. CBT doesn't suppress your emotions. It doesn't tell you to be happy. It doesn't say, don't be sad. CBT doesn't ask you to deny your pain. Instead, it hands you a mirror so you can look at your thoughts and ask one simple question. Is this real? Or is this just a passing emotion pretending to be truth? CBT works on a simple yet powerful principle. Thoughts create feelings, and thoughts can be questioned. You can't control if someone leaves you, but you can control the story you tell yourself about it. You can let it define your worth, or you can see it for what it was. Painful experience, yes, but not a verdict on who you are. CBT doesn't ask you to think positive. It simply teaches you to ask questions such as, what evidence do I have that this thought is true? Is this thought true in every situation? Or just in this one? If my best friend said this, what would I tell them? Have I been through something similar and made it through? That night, Natalie wrote in her notebook, I don't deserve to be loved. But instead of stopping there, she continued, I have loved sincerely. I've been loved by others. I've been honest in a relationship. That love was real, and even though the relationship ended, it doesn't erase my capacity to love or be loved. That didn't make her sadness vanish, but it was a shift, a movement from silent pain toward a more objective, grounded perspective. When you write your thoughts down and challenge them, the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, re-engages, helping you step out of survival mode and back into balance. Here's what matters. You don't have to defeat your negative thoughts. You just have to neutralize them, turn them from absolute truths into possibilities, things that might be true or might not. And in doing that, you take back some control over your emotions. CBT isn't instant healing, but it's a clear, conscious act in the middle of emotional turbulence. It's sitting down, writing out a thought that's been circling your mind and asking, is there something more reasonable I can believe right now? You don't have to lie to yourself. You just have to accept that not everything you think is true, especially when you're hurting. And from that place, you can begin to step out of the dark story that pain tries to write for you. You'll begin to realize emotions are real, but the story you tell about them can change. And sometimes, that's enough to keep you standing. Mindfulness. When you can't change the past, learn to live in the present. One of the most common misconceptions is this. People who practice mindfulness will reach a state of calm, sadness will disappear, and peace will always be present. That's not true. Mindfulness doesn't soothe your sadness. It doesn't erase your memories. It doesn't try to make you okay. What mindfulness does is bring you back to the present and helps you stay there long enough to stop fearing your own emotions. To live mindfully is to learn how to observe a wave without being swept away by it. It's recognizing, I'm feeling sad, without judgment, without needing to fix it, without resisting it. It's giving yourself a small pocket of space to breathe, even when your mind wants to run in every direction except where you are. Natalie and the lesson from cold running water. After the breakup, Natalie couldn't eat properly. She skipped meals, couldn't sleep, and constantly felt like her body was stuck in emergency mode, even when nothing was actually happening. One day, while washing her hands, she noticed something strange. The cold water made her pause. She wasn't thinking about the last message. She wasn't hearing his voice in her head. She was simply feeling the water running across her skin, smelling the faint mint in the soap, listening to the sound of the water hitting the sink. 1 minute, just 1 minute, where her thoughts stopped. She was simply there, doing something she did every day. But for the first time, she was truly living it moment by moment. From that day, she began practicing mindfulness, not in lotus position, not with candles or soft music, but in the most ordinary moments, brushing her hair, walking to the post office, sitting alone in the coffee shop they used to visit together. The neuroscience behind mindfulness. According to studies shared on the Huberman Lab podcast, one of the most respected sources for neuroscience today, mindfulness meditation has very real, measurable effects on the brain, particularly in 2 key areas. 1, reduced activity in the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of the brain responsible for fear, anxiety, and stress response. After emotional trauma like a breakup, this area becomes overactive, making you overly sensitive, reactive, and constantly on edge. Regular mindfulness practice helps calm the amygdala, quieting the red alert signals from your nervous system and bringing your body back into a state of biological safety. 2, increased connection to the prefrontal cortex. This is a region responsible for decision-making, emotional regulation, and logical thinking. When you're grounded in the present and observing your experience without reacting, the prefrontal cortex becomes more active, helping you not be swept away by past emotions or future fears. In other words, mindfulness helps you show up for your life fully without being controlled by survival instincts or chaotic memories. How to practice mindfulness. You don't need an expensive course or the perfect setting. What you need is the intention to stay, and any moment can be your starting point. Here are a few simple ways. 1. While walking. Instead of getting lost in a podcast or your messages, try noticing your steps. Feel the pressure beneath your feet, the swing of your hips, the sound of your shoes hitting the ground. Don't think, just observe. 2. While drinking tea, coffee, or water. Instead of rushing, pause and taste it. Notice the warmth or the coolness. Feel the liquid pass down your throat. Notice the weight of the cup in your hand. This isn't about being productive. It's about being present. 3. While breathing. Place a hand on your belly. Inhale slowly. Pause. Exhale fully. Don't try to change your breath. Just notice it. Each breath cycle is a quiet reminder. I'm alive. I'm here. 4. When emotions rise, instead of escaping sadness, try gently saying, I'm feeling pain, and that's real. 1 sentence. No judgment, no fixing, no pushing it away. You don't have to escape your pain. You just need to sit with it without letting it consume you. Mindfulness doesn't erase pain. It changes your relationship with it. You'll still remember them. Your heart may still ache when that old song plays. You might still wake up in the middle of the night, feeling empty. Mindfulness won't erase any of that. But mindfulness helps you stop panicking about it. You don't run. You don't tense up trying to resist. You don't pretend to be okay. You just stay and let your body quietly teach you this. You can stand in the middle of the emotion and not break. Presence is the greatest gift you can give yourself after a breakup. There's a quote from American meditation teacher Jack Kornfield. You don't have to get rid of the pain. You just have to stop resisting it. That's what mindfulness teaches you. Gently, slowly, honestly. There's nothing wrong with remembering someone. But if you're still here, still breathing, then you deserve to live in this moment. Not pulled back by the past. Not pushed forward by the future. You don't need peace. You just need presence. And from that place of presence, true healing can finally begin. Journaling and grounding, when writing becomes a way to survive. Some pain can't be spoken aloud. Not because you don't know what to say, but because the moment you try, your throat closes up. In moments like that, writing is the only way to breathe. You don't write to explain. You don't write to analyze. You write simply to survive emotions that are too big to carry. It's like uncapping a bottle inside yourself, giving your feelings a place to quietly flow, silently, without an audience, without needing to be understood. You don't need to start journaling with anything grand. No one's grading you. No one's reading it. You don't need to write well. You just need to write honestly. Some gentle prompts to begin with. What am I most afraid of today? If I could say one thing to my 10-year-old self, what would it be? What feels most empty inside me right now? And what, however small, am I still doing to keep going? Writing won't make you stronger overnight, but it gives you an anchor in the middle of emotional chaos. Sometimes, just seeing your pain sitting still on a page means it no longer has the power to carry you away. Grounding, coming back to the here and now. Alongside journaling, another gentle tool is grounding. It's the practice of pulling your body back to present when your mind starts drifting into panic or memory. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique is a simple way to ground yourself. 5 things you can see. Light, objects, plants, colors around you. For things you can touch. Your clothing, the chair, your skin, the table. 3 sounds you can hear. Traffic, a fan, footsteps. 2 smells you notice. Tea, soap, old books. 1 sensation in your body. Heartbeat, breath, tension, or release in your muscles. Grounding activates your parasympathetic nervous system, calming anxiety and bringing your body back to a biologically safe state. Natalie tried this during a sleepless night. She placed her feet on the floor, touched the wooden surface of her table, and breathed in the scent of essential oils on her pillow. No more drifting memories, just this quiet knowing, I'm still here. Write it down. Touch the world. Stay. Sometimes, writing and grounding are the only things you can do when nothing else works. But those two things can be enough to keep you here. Not to make you stronger, but simply to keep you from disappearing. And then, morning will come, not as a bright burst of sunshine, but maybe just a small crack of light. Just enough to remind you, you're still here. And that means everything. You don't need to go far, you just need to go honestly. We often think that facing our pain has to be something bold, decisive, even dramatic. We must move on, let go, start fresh as if we were never broken. But the truth is, those who are deeply hurt usually can't do that right away. And they don't have to. Facing your pain doesn't always look like climbing a mountain. Sometimes, it's just learning how to stand again, to take one small step, and then another on ground that still trembles beneath you. You don't need to move fast. You just need to move with presence. Instead of saying, I'm fine, maybe you just whisper to yourself, I'm hurting, and that's real. Instead of diving into your phone to avoid feeling, maybe you take 5 minutes to write down what's heavy on your heart, even if it comes out messy. Instead of blaming yourself for being weak, maybe you pause and ask, could I treat myself with more kindness right now? Healing doesn't happen through speed. It doesn't come just because you're determined. It begins in small, honest repetitions. You breathe, even when nothing feels different. You keep writing, even when the page still feels heavy. You sit with your pain, not because you enjoy it, but because you know that if you don't face it, you'll never truly move past it. A real step forward always matters more than a big, distant one. And only when you're gentle with yourself in each of those small, quiet steps does the healing journey begin to move forward at all. End of day practice. Write down a negative thought and gently challenge it with a kinder truth. After everything you've listened to and felt today, perhaps the most important thing you can do isn't to understand more, but to begin touching the tangled part inside of you. One of the foundational techniques in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is recognizing and challenging automatic negative thoughts. These are the thoughts that show up unconsciously, on repeat, forming a kind of toxic whisper you start to believe without even realizing. They might sound like, I'm not good enough. I always get left behind. I'll never be happy. No one truly cares about me. I always mess things up. These thoughts are not the truth. They're just the reflexes of someone who is hurting, like a wound that flinches when touched. But a wound won't heal if you let it stay infected in silence. Tonight, you'll try a simple practice. It may be small, but it could be the first step in gently loosening the knots inside you. How to do it. Write down one specific negative thought you've noticed repeating lately. Example, I wasn't good enough. That's why they left. Leave a blank space beneath it. Then, write a more reasonable and compassionate truth. Not to deny the feeling, but to challenge it with logic and kindness. Example of a kinder truth. I may not be perfect, but I love with my whole heart. The end of a relationship doesn't define my worth. Read that pair of thoughts 3 times. Slowly. No pressure to feel better right away. Just notice that there's another voice in your mind. Gentler, kinder, and you can choose to listen to it. You can do this exercise every night. It doesn't have to be long. Just one thought, one counter thought, one moment of presence. And you'll begin to realize healing doesn't happen in big, dramatic moments, but in quiet evenings like this, when you sit down, pick up your pen, and begin believing in yourself again, one line at a time. You don't need to go far. You just need to go honestly. And if today you managed even one step, that's already something to be proud of. We've just made it through a tough day together, a day of facing things, a day of emotions too big for logic, but ones that can slowly be untangled through presence, through words, through breathing again, and through being gentle with yourself. You've listened to how CBT helps you rewrite your inner story, one line at a time, with truth and compassion. You've practiced mindfulness, not to escape your pain, but to stop it from running the show. You've learned about journaling and grounding, two quiet anchors that keep you from drifting too far, in waves of emotion you might not even have names for yet. And finally, you took a moment to write down a negative thought and gave it a new form, more accurate, more gentle, more kind. No one else saw you do that, but you know you did, and that alone is worthy of recognition. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this video. Thank you for being brave enough to stay with yourself. If today's content resonated with you, you can support the channel by subscribing so you don't miss the next sessions, sharing this video with someone who might need a quiet space to heal, leaving a comment so we can continue to connect together. I always like to end each video with a few open-ended questions, not just to invite conversation, but to offer you a small pause for your own inner journey. If you've been through something like this, would you share below? Your story might help someone feel a little less alone. What did you learn from today's video? What's one thing you'd like to try? Writing, breathing, or just sitting quietly with your feelings? Is there a negative thought you'd like help challenging? Write it out. I'll read it. And if you're ready, tomorrow's video, Day 4, will be a turning point. We'll step into a real emotional wound through a case study. We'll analyze a real-life psychological struggle, so you not only understand others better, but also see parts of yourself reflected in it. It won't be an easy video, but it will be an honest one. And sometimes, honest is the only thing we need to begin again. I'll see you tomorrow. You're still here, and that in itself is something truly beautiful.